major development, the US Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit has ruled that Tahawwur Rana, the Pakistan-origin Canadian businessman involved in the 26/11 attack, is extraditable to India under the extradition treaty between the two countries. The panel affirmed the district court's denial of Tahawwur Rana Hussein's habeas corpus petition challenging a magistrate judge certification of Rana as extraditable to India for his alleged participation in terrorist attacks in Mumbai. The panel also held that India provided sufficient and competent evidence to support the magistrate judge's finding of probable cause that Rana committed the charged crimes. Mumbai police in its charge sheet had named Rana this Pakistani origin Canadian businessman in the 405-page charge sheet in connection with the 26/11 attacks. Rana is accused of being an operative of ISI and Lashkar-e-Taiba. My colleague Radhika Ramaswamy joins me for more on this story. Radhika, it is a big victory for India, but tell us a little bit about the fact if he still has any way of getting away. Can he still make appeals to the court?
Yes, certainly he has options to appeal. This is, as you said, a big development, a big breakthrough as far as the Indian investigation agencies are concerned. Tahawwur Rana is now on the brink of extradition from the US. As you said, US Court of Appeals for North Circuit ruled that he is eligible for extradition under the treaty between India and the US. Of course, the court confirming that India has provided sufficient evidence to support the judge's finding of his probable cause of involvement in the terror attacks of 2008 in Mumbai. Of course, earlier Central District of California had rejected his habeas corpus petition. Then he filed an appeal. He does have options to appeal further. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. But as of now, this is setback for Tahawwur Rana and a big victory for India. The court deciding that Rana's alleged offence falls within the terms of the treaty, which contains a double jeopardy exception. So that's what, as far as the court orders and directives are concerned from the US. Now, if you just look at the role of Tahawwur Rana, of course, he is said to be connected to David Coleman Headley, who is, of course, the main conspirator as far as 2008 terror attacks are concerned. They were friends from school in Pakistan. Tahawwur Rana had later moved to Canada, where he started a business. As far as his alleged role is concerned, in fact, it was Headley during the cross-examination that he had named Tahawwur Rana. In fact, the Mumbai branch of Rana's Business and Immigration Services had, in fact, provided David Headley with the cover to identify the targets for that attack, to carry out those attacks. He had provided cover to Headley and also obtained multiple entry business visa. So therefore, the role is, of course, extensive. And as you said, Mumbai police had also filed a supplementary charge sheet, 405-page supplementary charge sheet. It was filed last year, which also reveals that Tahawwur Rana had, in fact, visited Mumbai multiple occasions, and he had also had discussions over multiple targets that needed to be covered, as far as the attacks are concerned. So yes, extensive evidence provided. So now, of course, the victory for India, as he's now on the brink of extradition from the US.
My colleague Nikunj Garg is also with us on the phone line, but let me also go over to Amrita Raichand, who is a survivor of the 26/11 attack. Amrita, thank you very much for joining us at this hour. Your first reaction to what India has achieved today, the moment that we see on our screens that Tahawwur Rana will finally, there is a process, of course, after this, but he can be extradited.
Anything that's related to the 26/11 attacks, any positive news always brings, the reaction of happiness. It also kind of takes you back into all those memories that still haunt you. It's been 16 years. These moments it's a happy, sad moment because, wherein you feel the joy that finally, some other justice is also happening. Although, I want to make a point here that we always condemn India for our slow judicial system. But here it's taken 16 years for something that was so obvious to release this, this person. And, I can't wait to see David Headley also, released. And, we need justice at that front as well. I'm somebody who likes to see the glass half full rather than empty. Right now, I am elated with this development. Let's hope things move in the right direction.
Amrita, do stay on with us. We will go over to my colleague Nikunj Garg. Nikunj, it's taken a pretty long time, 16 years. Why would you say that the process has taken such a long time? And in between, Tahawwur Rana was also released on grounds of compassion, I believe.
Well, it's shameful to say the least. It's shameful to say the least when 200 people have lost their lives in such a dastardly terror attack, in such a brutal manner, and families have been brutalized, destroyed, completely destroyed, distraught for no fault of theirs. It's shameful. But the fact is that for us, there was very little to do in the sense of what we could do in the third jurisdiction, which is the United States of America, and the fourth one in Canada. We did whatever we could. It's the wheels of the justice that in that country that have to roll, and I'm talking about a bipartisan agreement and arrangement, whether it was a UPA 1 and UPA 2 government, and then the NDA 1 and NDA 2 governments in India. They have tried with all their might, with whatever was possible under the sun. They have tried to move and the wheels of justice and ensure that at least Tahawwur Rana is brought to the Indian shores, not brought back so much because he never visited India other than probably only once as a tourist. Now, the fact is that having gone through all that pain of trying to secure the justice, my hope is that this process now is moving towards a culmination. And my sense is, it would become clearer by the passage of a few more hours that this is the, if nothing else, penultimate appeal that this man has, that this terrorist has, that this murderer has, that this butcherer has, and after that, if there are no more appeals, and he will have to be necessarily deported to India. In the United States, the Supreme Court of the United States is not a court of appeal like in India. So a district court appeals panel saying that, this man is an extraditable commodity, and I say commodity with a very grave sense of purpose and understanding, is as good as the final verdict. Maybe the legal experts will tell us there is one more chance of appeal left. Pakistani establishment, Pakistan ISI would try and do their level best to exhaust and to spend and to waste as much time as possible in trying to ensure that this appeals process also lengthens. And in the interim, something happens to Tahawwur Rana. So their hope is that he does not land on Indian shores. And we are trying our best to ensure that.
Nikunj, it's interesting that you say that this could be a penultimate appeal made by him, and after that he might be extradited to India. But the obvious question, I think everyone would like to know, how long this process might take if the extradition happens. How long this process might take?
Well, this is just about it, Rika. This is just any time from now to another 12 months. So this is between 24 and 25 that we are looking at this man being brought to India. It's not a very long game that he has left to play with. It's not a very long game that the Pakistani establishment and the extensions of the Pakistani establishment are left to play with. It's a very short game from here on when the appeals court has also turned it down. As I said, in the United States and in the United Kingdom also, where the Supreme Courts do not act as courts of appeal, unlike India. So therefore that chance is exhausted. In between, if there is one chance of one more appeal, that Pakistani establishment would try and ensure for sure and try and wait. But my sense is that it's just a matter of now months and not even years.
Radhika, this has been a very complicated story, multiple layers to this story. What exactly are we looking to know from Tahawwur Rana now? What is that piece of puzzle that he can solve for us, for India? Radhika, if you can hear me. Amrita, of course, we were talking to you and you said that any positive news that comes on 26/11 is positive, is a ray of hope. At this hour, are you thinking of anyone, are you thinking of conveying this piece of news to anyone?
No, I ended up losing a lot of friends and they ended up losing their families. So, of course, this whole extradition is positive for me, and I will call up some of my close friends who did not end up surviving like the way I did. And my son, he was only 1 year old, and my entire family was stuck the entire night. Even today, it haunts him. When I talk to him about it, of course, once he grew much older is when I told him what happens. Every time he hears about this, he kind of gets quite shaken up. And I think every time a good news, we get some good news. Right now, it is the whole extradition of Rana. And I'm going to talk to him. He's old enough to understand these things. And I think it's important that we educate children and tell them, about everything that our country has suffered and the progresses that we are making eventually.
Right. Nikunj, let me take this question to you. It's a very complicated story led. Now with Tahawwur Rana's extradition, what are the answers India will be looking to find through him?
But there are multiple answers, Rika, that this man needs to answer to the families, this man needs to answer to the establishment, this man needs to answer our intelligence and law enforcement agencies. Remember, he is one man, other than Dave Coleman Headley, who knows all the principal players from the Pakistani military to the Pakistani establishment to the Pakistani state who were involved in the conspiracy, the hatching of the conspiracy, the financing, the execution, and finally, the attempt to obliterate any kind of link that those could be traced back to Pakistan. So he is a very important cog in the wheel. He is not somebody who is a fly on the wall. He is a very important cog in the wheel. He has been through the entire conspiracy with Dave Coleman Headley right from the word go. And Dave Coleman, if one individual was kept in complete loop and complete information, it was Tahawwur Rana, his childhood friend. Both of them studied together at a Pakistani military school in Pakistan. And therefore, there are multiple layers of information about the leadership of Lashkar-e-Taiba, the frontal organization. I would not call the Lashkar-e-Taiba as the executors of Mumbai 26/11. They were just the pawns in the hands of Pakistani army. It was the Pakistani army that was behind the attack. And all these individual officers who trained the Pakistani terrorists, who trained the Pakistani brass that met the Pakistani terrorists, the Lashkar brass and the Pakistani brass that was intertwined very closely during the entire operation and preparation of it for last 2 years before the attack from 2006 to 2008. This man is individually privy to each one of them. And therefore, we need to know and we must know a lot from him. And he must, at the end of the day, face the full might of the Indian justice system so as to ensure maximum justice to the families of those who have suffered needlessly.
Nikunj, well, we do know that there are accusations of him having provided material support in the terror attack in India that happened in 26/11 and also a foiled terror attack in Denmark, I believe.
Well, yes, these two individuals were acting as global terrorists. Dave Coleman Headley was actually not just a terror operative that Pakistani army was fronting. But Dave Coleman Headley was an individual who was a global terrorist being backed by the Pakistani army, Pakistani establishment, and individuals like Tahawwur Rana. My suspicion is that Tahawwur Rana was also made to give support, provide support, all the material support and the financial support to Dave Coleman Headley on the instructions of the Pakistani army and the Pakistani establishment. So Copenhagen in Denmark was their second target. They were planning to do a full recce there, and that's when he was trying to exit one of the United States of America's airports that he was arrested. Dave Coleman Headley was arrested by the Federal Bureau of Investigation. So therefore, as I have been saying, that this man is a very important cog in the wheel. This man is no small-time operative. This man is no innocuous businessman who has been conned or befooled by a childhood friendship to carry out this kind of dastardly, massive terror strike on Indian soil. This man must face the might of the Indian law and Indian justice system, because he is one of the perpetrators and he is one of the conspirators, and he is one of the backers and providers for the material support. And I must say that without his active cover, the financials, and without his active cover that he provided in terms of his visa and immigration services,
Right.
Dave Coleman Headley could not have successfully set up a base in a city like Mumbai that he did, and eventually was able to carry out his activities across India.
Right. Very interesting points there indeed. Now, Radhika, my colleague from Mumbai, is also there in the phone line. Radhika, the treaty that permits Tahawwur Rana's extradition is because the Indian charges contain certain distinct elements from the crimes for which he has been acquitted in the United States. Now, would you be able to tell us what are these distinct elements for which now he is going to be extradited?
That's right. In fact, the court has confirmed that sufficient evidence has been provided by India, which is what is leading to these directives and orders by the court in the U.S. In fact, as far as the evidence being provided is concerned, very interesting to note that a supplementary charge sheet was filed last year, especially after that habeas corpus petition was filed, post which, a 406-page charge sheet was filed by the Mumbai Crime Branch, once again highlighting Tahawwur Rana's role. In fact, there are material evidences. There is evidence to show that he had, in fact, visited Mumbai just a few days before 26/11. It has certain revelations as far as how he discussed crowded places in Mumbai with a hotel staffer in Pava is concerned. In fact, he also visited some of these places, including the sites of the attack. PSC is a place that he had visited. There were fresh details that Mumbai Crime Branch has also revealed in that particular charge sheet, which is something that India has provided to the U.S. Officials found that he stayed at a hotel in Pava in November 2008, days before the attack, where he had submitted his passport as well as visa copy, and the hotel had maintained these records. So, multiple records and evidence being provided by Indian agencies to the U.S., which is what has led to this order by the court.